Hello, and thanks for watching another edition of ARFCOM News. Today I want to focus entirely on the executive infringements issued from that house on Pennsylvania where the creepy old man lives. But before we get started, I want to tell you about the fine mahogany night vision products offered to you by our friends at TNVC.com. Artfully handcrafted by earnest, hardworking Amish operators, TNVC Night Vision is unique and uncompromising, just like you. If you like seeing stuff more than not seeing stuff, take a look at our sponsor, TNVC.com, your source for quality night vision gear to make you the bump in the night. Well, friends, I had an episode all written up and ready for your consumption, but then the Stairmaster held a press conference where he took to the podium to announce to everyone he has a Werther's original in his pocket and invited folks in the audience to just feel around in there to see if they can find it. After a lengthy and awkward pause, he settled for smelling a woman's hair while his hand rested uncomfortably on her hip. He then fell asleep watching Matlock, and eventually Jen woke him up and told him the press corps was still waiting to hear his new control freak scheme to ignore the Constitution, the legislative branch, and the judiciary. After fumbling for his readers and puttering around for a few minutes, the befuddled old fellow eventually rambled his way through.
Today, I'm proud to nominate David Chipman to serve as the director of the AFT.
His plan for new executive orders intended to infringe on the fundamental human right to bear arms. It takes me a couple days to write and shoot these episodes, and Sean needs a couple of days to edit, so by the time you see this, you will have likely heard a thing or two about the royal decrees, but I consider it my duty to tell you my opinion. And I want to really dig in and analyze what effect they'll actually have on you should you decide to comply with any of them. First up is Sniffy Joe's plan on Spooky Boys. He claims criminals are using these so-called ghost guns in crimes. I'm not aware of any evidence which suggests homemade guns are particularly favored by criminals over stolen guns or those obtained through straw sales. For that matter, I'd be surprised if most of the ghost guns recovered in crime scenes weren't also stolen. But he whines that cops can't trace them. Well, cops can't trace stolen guns or guns with properly obliterated serial numbers either. Nevertheless, he vaguely urges the Department of Justice to issue a proposed rule to help stop the proliferation of these firearms. But what Stranger Danger doesn't get is the whole point of homemade guns is avoiding government intrusion, so I'm sure they can intimidate companies like Polymer 80, but it's not like they can really do anything substantive to prevent the dissemination of CAD files. You can't stop the signal no matter how you rail and rage. The Justice Department has 30 days, so I guess in a month we'll find out what the new rule actually is. Bottom line, don't go burying all your spooky boys in the woods just yet. Next up are pistol braces. By this time, we've probably all heard the wave of irrational weeping from the gun tubes and pew socials about how Uncle Dutchy just banned braces. But that's simply not true. As much as I hate to admit it, this EO is actually what we've been asking for all along, at least on the face of it. He gives the Justice Department 2 months to come up with a rule clarifying when a device marketed as a stabilizing brace effectively turns a pistol into a short-barreled rifle. Look, the entire NFA is unconstitutional, and the bit about short-barrel rifles is particularly goofy, considering it is only in there to prevent a loophole because the NFA was originally intended to include all handguns. But it exists, and we have to expect the ATF to attempt to enforce it. As stupid as it is, their constant waffling on braces is infuriating. They need to issue clear, objective criteria so you can decide whether or not to bring your toys to a public range. So on the face of it, I'm not opposed to this directive to clarify their position, but I'm also aware the rule may end up defining the circumstances when a brace makes a pistol into a rifle as something along the lines of, it exists. More realistically, they will probably codify some of the things they've been kicking around for the last year or two. That is, they'll say anything with a length of pull over 13.5 inches or some other arbitrary number, anything that weighs more than a certain amount, probably not 10 boxes.
I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it It is as heavy as 10 boxes.
Anything with an eye relief too short to use with your arm extended in the manner the brace is intended to be used. Anything chambered in a cartridge which isn't controllable when fired one-handed, and so on. In other words, that Springfield Saint .308 pistol I reviewed a while back, or anything similar, has a real good chance of being right in the middle of the bullseye of these new rules. I hope these standards are all objective, empirical measurements which end users can evaluate for themselves. But again, we don't actually know anything right now, and we have to wait 2 months to find out. Bottom line, don't go burying all your short boys in the woods just yet. The next one is the bury all your guns in the woods plan. Captain Senile directed his Justice Department to draft model red flag laws for states to adopt and urged Congress to pass a federal red flag law. Why do I call red flag laws bury all your guns in the woods laws? Because normal, rational people are preparing for red flag laws by hiding guns. And I don't think they're necessarily wrong. This isn't some hypothetical future where a hypothetical authoritarian government is seizing guns from innocent people. This is our actual current authoritarian government planning to seize guns from innocent people as we watch. So if normal people are hiding guns, then you can bet your ass that paranoid, delusional people are also hiding guns. If someone really is a crazy psycho who plans to do harm, and the state carries out a red flag order to seize his guns, how can they be sure they got all of them? And don't you think stealing his property without warning or recourse might piss him off a little? Hell, that might even cause an otherwise rational person who happens to be under a lot of pressure to go full Heemeyer. No, sending agents of the state to confiscate only some guns from an actually dangerous and paranoid nutter, and then walking away to leave them free to do as they will, using motor vehicles or stabby things or pool chemicals or the cache of weapons they buried in the wilderness, is just plain stupid. But if none of that is reason enough for you to oppose red flag laws, if the practical issues I just mentioned, coupled with the gross violations of the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, and 10th Amendments aren't compelling enough for you, consider this. If Uncle Naughty Hands and the Cheeto-in-Chief both want something this badly, it absolutely has to be the most awful thing to happen to the American people since Bryan Adams. As bad as red flag laws are, this EO is mostly just wind sauce and air pudding. It doesn't actually do anything. It just directs the Justice Department to publish model legislation and urges Congress to pass a law, but at the end of the day, it's still just hopes and dreams and unicorn farts. The next EO is about community intervention and jobs and so on, and has heck all to do with guns, so it is outside the scope of our coverage. But the one after directs the Department of Justice to issue an annual report on firearms trafficking. No word on whether that report will include anything about Biden's former boss selling guns to Mexican coke dealers, but this is another one which doesn't look so terrible on the face of it. Information is good. Empirical data helps our cause. But it's probably fair to speculate they will cherry pick which subjects to investigate in order to produce evidence to support prohibition and confiscation. The EO even specifically mentions they are interested in data about so-called ghost guns, and I'm sure no matter what the data says, it will be used to push legislation in a futile attempt to stop the signal. Saving the best for last, the Bad Touch announced he will appoint David Chipman as director of F Troop. This is especially problematic because I ran a background check on Chipman, and it turns out he was involved in a suspicious fire in Texas, which resulted in the passing of 76 people. No matter where you stand on politics, can we all at least agree dangerous men like this should not hold positions of power? No, seriously, appointing this man feels like a not-so-subtle threat. It feels like the Biden administration is telling us, this is what I have in store for anyone who opposes me. So to recap, nothing has actually changed yet. We should see some rules come down in the next month or two, which may restrict 80% lowers, home-built guns, and pistol braces, but it's doubtful they will have much teeth. The rest is troubling, but there is little of substance in these EOs. Let's stay focused on the legislative and court battles. Keep calling and emailing your representatives. Sign up for your state's Citizens Defense League and show up to every hearing related to gun rights you can make it to. I want you to know that Karens looking for action are at every single gun control hearing, ever. Don't let them be the only shrill voices in the room being heard. And keep donating to the FPC, GOA, SAF, and other organizations fighting in the courts for your rights. Well, friends, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy watching these things because I sure like making them for you. Would you like to know a secret to beating the ammo shortage? Although you cannot actually purchase any gun-related products at AR15.com/deals, I'm looking at you, Mr. YouTube censor. AR15.com/deals is constantly updated with links to the best scores on ammo, guns, and accessories so you can get the drop on the neckbeards before they snatch up all the good stuff. But AR15.com/deals relies on viewers like you, so if you find a sick deal, be sure to go to AR15.com/deals and share it. Don't forget to bookmark AR15.com/deals and check AR15.com/deals every day. If you want to help us keep bringing you banger content like this, please support the folks who support us. Not only does TNVC.com give you night vision with that cool, refreshing, never bitter taste that goes down smooth, they also have mounts, lights, and all sorts of other gear to make you the bump in the night. And if you want a baller cap like mine or other ARFCOM swag, you can get it at brownells.com. Or you can buy fly shirts like this one in our Teespring store. Or if you'd like to try your luck and see if you can win your choice of rad shirt from our Teespring store, post a comment containing the phrase, "You can't stop the signal," in the YouTube comments, and I will arbitrarily and unilaterally choose the best one. I love you.